Okay guys, welcome to lesson 6 of the 3D Rad tutorial series by me, Sorbius. Basically today we're back to the slideshow now, and today we're going to be talking about some design principles, doing it right the first time. Now I know we've gotten into the engine a little bit, and you've got to click around and figure some things out, and you may have already figured some things out on your own that you didn't learn in this tutorial because it's just so straightforward. But what we're going to talk about in this lesson is just a few things to keep in mind so that you understand the design process a little better and how this actually works. And the best way to do this is to just go through these points rather quickly and just explain them. So what we got here is gameplay, graphics, glory. That's the 3 G's that I came up with that. I came up with all this stuff because I already know it, but, you know, I didn't go through official education in order to get a well-rounded experience, but I get it. You know, I was born to do this stuff, so it makes sense. But the idea behind these 3 steps, basically, when you're designing with this software, any software for that matter, I already know that in your brain, you see the big picture. You already see all of the vast landscapes, or the beautifully dressed characters, or the item system that you'll use. You're just going to do all these stuff and things, and well, that's good. It's good to have that vision. I've got a shoebox full from top to bottom, and I'm a size 12, so this is a big box of papers and drawings and stat charts and storylines and just all this stuff. And I used to have more, but you know, throughout my life, things get lost. And then I've got stacks of notebooks that I've written ideas in. I got little pieces of paper all over the place with all this stuff. I mean, I've wrote it all down. I have a facilitator. I got a full binder dedicated to the one game with ideas and that, and I've pitched them and done all this stuff. But here's the thing. While all of that stuff is good, especially writing stuff down and drawing concept art, like, carry around a little notepad with you, okay? Because one of the things that's going to happen is you're going to run into big picture problems. When you grab a hold of this software, even though it is rapid application development, you still got a long road ahead of you to make the big picture, okay? And one of the problems associated with this is you can have any scope of game that you want, okay? But if you think too big out of the gate, you're going to get frustrated. Okay, it's like biting off more than you can chew. You're basically turning yourself into a 10-man team, because guess what? If you, I take it from the standpoint that you're doing this by yourself. If you got a couple of buddies that want to help you work on this, you are already one step ahead of the game. But let's say you're doing this by yourself, because for financial reasons, or you don't know anybody, or you want to do it yourself, you know, you're a 10-man team right out of the gate. What do you mean a 10-man team? Well, guess what? You got to be the programmer, you got to be the designer, you got to be the world builder, the character builder, and the rigger, and the skinner, and the texture, and the sound and music, and the web development, and the marketing, and the advertising. You got to do all of that stuff. So the big picture, it's good to hold on to that, but don't be afraid to step back a little bit, because you can run into what I like to call the end result deception. Okay, this is this deception that we fall into all the time, but we don't notice it. And it's, I guess deception is kind of a strong word, because it implies you're being lied to. But all this means is that when you see a new game coming out from a AAA publisher, or a first-party publisher, or even a third-party publisher like Ubisoft coming out with their next big thing, okay, and then you start watching gameplay videos, and it's been on the shelf for a week, and you really want to play it. And this doesn't just apply to video games, but video games are interactive and something we can actually get our hands on through the power of the internet, okay? So you see this and you're like, oh man, that game's awesome. And you see all the pretty textures and all the gameplay and everything works, and there might be a bug here or there, but they patch it and everything's hunky-dory. Well, here's the thing. At least 6 months were spent on developing that game. 6 months ago, or a year ago, whenever it started, the production. And they got the teams together, and they had all their meetings, and they did the art department and everything. All of that was going on before you ever even knew that they were making it. Okay? So the deception comes from you seeing the end result of all of the hundreds of people that were working on it and the millions of dollars that were spent and all of the stuff that was done to get that one project to you, the end user. And if you start thinking there, you miss the whole point of this. As a game developer, you've got to start at the beginning, okay? The starting point. And we already have gone over that in the introductory series because I introduced you to a game engine. Okay? When you're looking at the end result as a gamer, it doesn't matter. Go get the game and go play it and enjoy it. Be entertained. But if you're looking at all of these games that come out all the time from a developer's perspective, you got to ignore all that smoke and mirrors, okay? Because you need to think back to how the project gets started. Okay, you have to have your game engine, you have to have your supporting software, your modeling, your texturing, well, I should say how you design your artwork, and you got to have your basic idea, which pretty much means what is the game about? The most basic and simple way. Try to describe your game in one sentence, or if you're really crafty, in one word, which could end up being like a genre. But you've got to be able to describe your game in such simple terms, okay? We're talking about simplifying everything. Stripping down. You've literally got to take your big picture and your big idea and you've got to start ripping pieces off left and right and dismembering the crap out of it. And I get emphatic about this because this is what you have to do. You've just got to tear it apart and strip it down to the very most basic way you can visualize it. And then that is where you're going to be able to start adding it to an actual development software, one method at a time, and define the boundaries, because unless you're going to make an open world game that's 30 million square meters across like Minecraft or something, which by the way is procedurally generated, so it's not technically designed that way in the first place, but unless you're going to make something vast that has a repeating map or something like that, you got to define the boundaries, and not just of the visual elements, but also of the gameplay. There's got to be certain limits. I mean, that's how genres get defined in the first place, isn't it? A first-person shooter is known for your ability to shoot from a first-person perspective. That's what it does. An adventure game is known for the exploration element and the discovery element. A real-time strategy is known for its placement of objects and the strategy that you have to use to acquire resources and defeat whatever adversity is out there. I mean, there are boundaries as to what you are able to do, and once those are clearly defined, now you've simplified your idea. Okay? Once you have done that, you got to make it work every time. Everything that you program, these little bits and pieces of program that you're going to be writing, and like I said, you will be scripting by the time I'm done with you. But you got to make it work every time. Just one little simple thing like making a character run around. You've got to make it work to the point where it works every time. And once you do that, you can repeat it 1,000 times. And that's how you take every little piece of your game. Okay? Now, the overhead of this is gameplay graphics glory, because we're talking about tearing out your idea. Don't worry about the big picture at the start. You're going to build up to that, okay? But you got to start at the beginning, and you've got to simplify everything, break it down into little pieces that are just going to look terrible. Your game is going to look absolutely garbage. It's going to be nonsense. It's going to be blocks floating around on the screen. It's going to be crude drawings of cubes with happy faces on them. It's just going to look bad, okay? But it's going to work. Okay? And once it works, you can repeat that over and over again as many times as you need so that the game actually functions. Okay? Then and only then can you polish the poop, or put it nicer, make it pretty. Once the game works so that everything is in place, all the gameplay elements are there, that's when you can make it pretty. That's when you can add all the fancy graphics and the shading and the shadows and the light maps and all of that stuff. And you can make it look really, really nice. Because the graphics are a big part of it. But it's got to work. Because we know that it's been up for debate for a lot of years, but we know graphics aren't everything. And even though games might look really nice, like PlayStation 4 and Xbox One and Wii U, because it's considered next gen as far as Nintendo is concerned. These three systems, as well as high-end PCs of the PC Master Race that I hear so much about these days, they're all pumping out these unbelievably detailed and amazingly realistic graphics. But some of the games suck. And because of that, you look at some of these indie games you get on Steam, and they are worlds better than some of the stuff your AAA publishers are putting out. That doesn't mean that those games are terrible, but they don't have, in some cases, they don't have the gameplay because they just want it to look really good because, you know, it's ADHD compliant. If it looks awesome, you're going to want to play it no matter what the game is like. But it's that balance that you find. But it's got to work first, and then you can make it pretty. And finally, once it has been made pretty, you release it. Now you can release little bits of it in the meantime, especially if you're developing by yourself. You're gonna want feedback from time to time, so that you can, you know, get some interest in the meantime. Because that's what Notch did. Marcus Persson did that with Minecraft, and it exploded because he kept his audience involved. And then you get into a studio situation, and the lead developer who trusts his executives said, "Look, here's what you got to do. Here's how long we have to do it. And once it's done, then we'll move on to the next thing." You don't just work on one project for 6, 8, 12 months and then, oh, now we're going to start something else. No, it's always a rolling thing. We're involved with many different projects at the same time. So once the game is released, once it's at a version, we'll say the beta version or final version, after the beta has been tested properly, you're going to update it, you're going to promote it, you're going to give more. Okay? So, all of this said, I can show you the way, you gotta do the work. And I say that to mean that I'm gonna show you everything I can to teach you how to use your software so that these starting points and these simplified ideas that you figure out, you can actually conceptualize on the screen so that you'll be able to make them pretty and turn them into a game. But you're the one that has to do it. I can't do it for you, but I'm certainly gonna help in any way I can. So, Lesson 7. We're going to get back into the editor, and I'm going to start to go over some of the more detailed elements of design now that you understand where I'm coming from, because the stuff I'm going to show you is, in some cases, not even going to look like a game that you've ever seen before because it's just going to be so crude and terrible, kind of like that car I made in the last one. But it's going to show you ideas as how you could get those to work. So thank you for watching. I'll see you guys in the next lesson, and get the software and start messing with it because we're going to have a great time. See ya.